My name is Maggie Mistal. I'm a career coach and radio host. I host Making a Living with Maggie on Martha Stewart Living Radio on Sirius and XM. And I help professionals of all levels and backgrounds who are unhappy in their careers to really find their ideal and get on that path and be happy and ecstatic going to work every day, whether it's in their own business or working for someone else. Now, that was my 15-second pitch. How'd I do? Pretty good, right? I actually started in accounting. Do I look like an accountant? No. All right, I have my CPA. Whoa. Don't ask me to do your taxes, though. Really. Ooh, I do my own like 3 times, and I still have to get help from my accountants and financial planners. Because really what I realized when I became an accountant, that I only did it because I wanted to get into business. I didn't know much else. And when I actually started being an accountant, I realized I didn't like numbers. I wanted to work with people, not numbers. And I thought I made the biggest mistake. I was 22 years old. I'd spent all this time, energy, money to get into a career that I didn't want to have. And luckily, I worked at a company called Arthur Andersen, which some of you may never have even heard of because it doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But I did work at Arthur Andersen, and they were very encouraging of your growth and development. So I got to switch into consulting, which for any of you who've ever done consulting, it's much more people-focused. Yeah, you still have the numbers aspect, but it was a better fit. Ultimately, though, I knew I still wasn't in the right job. And then something happened, something wonderful. Enron. Right? You've heard of Enron? Enron brought Arthur Andersen not only to its knees, but eliminated the company. A 99-year-old, very conservative company disappeared in 6 months. Arthur Andersen was one of the stodgiest places you could work. And it shocked the world when that place went down. And I learned at that moment, whoa, you can't rely on your company for job security. It's got to come from you. Because guess what my next step was? Martha Stewart. And Martha Stewart, great company, great to work for, but remember that whole clone thing? Yeah, I have really good timing. I basically gave my notice at Arthur Andersen, and I was all excited because I'm like, oh, thank God, that's over. I don't have to talk about it anymore. Within 2 weeks, I hadn't even started at Martha Stewart yet, and the clone thing was hitting. And my mom said she would never hire me because I was the curse. And again, it was like, okay, Maggie, you know what? You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You cannot rely on an employer for your job security. And the amazing thing was, I have to say, you know, I've talked to most of you, my clients that are here about informational interviewing. I actually got the job at Martha Stewart through an informational interview, which I'm a big fan of. That's an important part of the story because ultimately when I asked around to my network, you know, if anyone knew anyone in HR, it was the best transition for me out of consulting. The head of HR at Martha Stewart was a former Arthur Andersen person. So you never know who you're going to meet if you just ask your own network. So I get to Martha Stewart, and luckily they still hired me despite ImClone, still kept me on. And I was hired to do management development. And my boss found out that I was also a career coach. I was starting my practice at the time, and the way that I wanted to build my business was to have a full-time job that was 9 to 6, something that I could keep within a box that would be in New York so I could build my practice on the side. That's really why I took the job. Not that it wasn't great to work at Martha Stewart, but I really needed something that was boxed in. And this fit the bill. Oh, and by the way, I took a 25% pay cut to do that. Yeah, like a little shocks, right? And you know what? What the amazing part was even taking the pay cut, right? So I'm taking this pay cut, I'm taking this job, and I'm starting this practice. And I don't know what's going to happen, but what I did know is that I had a tremendous network of Arthur Andersen people who were all out of work too. So I put on a workshop for 20 of my closest friends, people that I knew I could support, and I showed them my coaching process. I took them through it in a 2-hour workshop at a friend's house in Harlem. She hadn't bought her furniture yet. I rented chairs, tables, set it up just like this, and I did a workshop for them. And I said, hey guys, this is my new thing. I'm a career coach now, and this is what I do. So if you need help or know somebody who does, send them my way. And that's where my coaching practice started. So I had the coaching practice starting that way. And I have my Martha Stewart job. Now, the amazing part is that at my Martha Stewart job, I had the most amazing mentor. I was so lucky and so blessed to be working for a gentleman. His name was Ron Thomas. I think he's going to be famous someday, if he isn't already. He basically said, oh, my God, you're a career coach, too? Well, why not do that within the company? And I said, really? I could do that? And he said, of course. Why wouldn't we want more value from you? We're not going to be able to pay you anymore, sorry. But if you really want to coach, why not do it here? And so I was really nervous and really scared, but with his support, I started something. And within the 4 years I was at Martha Stewart, I became known as the career coach for the company. I coached at all levels. And within that time, Martha Stewart launched a radio station on Sirius. And guess what? Maggie has a dream to be a radio host. In the back of my mind, I always wanted to do talk radio. And so I'm talking to my boss, Ron Thomas, and I'm like, that'd be really cool. He's like, well, why don't you pitch it? What do you mean pitch it? I hadn't met Laura yet. And he helped me at that point to pitch the idea of a careers radio talk show. And they asked me to host it. And all of a sudden I had this show, and people are like, well, how did you know how to do radio? I'm like, I didn't. But what I learned, like, we got some training, and what I learned is the best way to learn something is to do it. And to do it as often as you could. And I took on as much radio time as I could. I was in there Sundays, Thursdays, whenever I could get airtime, I was in that studio doing live radio. And it was amazing for me to be able to, express myself. And at that same time, though, I'll tell you, it was a little difficult because I had radio, I had my job, and I had my coaching practice. And so what I didn't get to do was a lot of the social aspects of my life. So I could only do that for about 2 full years. So a year and a half ago, I left the Martha Stewart job, the full-time job. But at the point where my coaching practice had reached a level that could support me, and I was able to keep doing radio.